we're doing better as a result of social media presence.
If it doesn't do those three things, then it's on the chopping block.
It's a return on investment discussion.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Daily Dealer Live. I'm your host, Sam Dark, and welcome to this space where automotive comes together to learn, to grow, to share. And thank you for choosing to be here on this Monday, November 10th. Thinking about tomorrow. Happy Veterans Day, everybody. Tomorrow to those across automotive who served our country. Thanks for your service. And welcome to today. Today is Marketing Monday. But before we dive into that, let's go into today's industry headlines. First up today, LaFontaine Chevrolet Buick GMC of St. Clair in Michigan is back open after state officials temporarily suspended the dealership's license over vehicle titling violations related to selling loaner vehicles as new. The dealership reopened last Wednesday after a one-day suspension and received penalties including a $25,000 fine, extended state oversight through December 2026, and mandatory staff training, state officials told the Detroit News. In a statement, LaFontaine said the suspension was, quote, administrative in nature, close quote, pointing to confusion between automaker program requirements and what it called Michigan's, quote, outdated titling laws. This is the second LaFontaine store to face similar penalties. Its Hyundai of Livonia location paid the same fine and served a one-day suspension late last year. Bottom line here, well, both dealerships are open for business, but LaFontaine now faces closer scrutiny from state regulators as Michigan seems to be tightening its enforcement on compliance. And I know the LaFontaine group, as a personal disclosure, they're a great group. Ryan, the entire team there. So props to them as they go through that. Not a lot of fun. Next up today in today's news, Honda's latest earnings show just how much pressure the automaker is under from U.S. tariffs and the ongoing Nexperia chip shortage. Net profit fell 37% in the first half of its fiscal year to about $2 billion, with tariffs alone cutting operating profit by more than $1 billion. And chip complications are adding to the strain. Honda has paused production at its plant in Mexico and adjusted output at several North American facilities, a move that could affect more than 100,000 Honda and Acura vehicles. This according to an internal memo obtained by CDG News. The company has lowered its full-year profit outlook by nearly two-thirds, but it says it hopes to restore production later in November. Looking ahead, dealers may see more uneven inventory and may want to plan around short-term gaps as the company works to stabilize output. Crazy times. Chips? Next up, Apple's growing presence in the auto world is starting to make some automakers nervous, and now Ford CEO Jim Farley is joining the pushback. The tension centers on Apple CarPlay Ultra, the latest version of CarPlay that basically turns a car's screen into a full iPhone mirror, showing everything from apps to air conditioning and even driving modes. So far, Aston Martin is the only brand fully on board, but others like Ford and General Motors are worried that Apple's deeper integration gives it way too much control and too much access to valuable and monetizable driver and vehicle data. Farley told The Verge he's not comfortable letting an outside brand dictate a vehicle's core functions, saying, quote, how far do you want the Apple brand to go? Do you want the Apple brand to start the car? Well, maybe the consumer does. Big picture here, well, Apple CarPlay Ultra blurs the line between car and smartphone, and that's forcing automakers to rethink how much control they're willing to give up, despite any consumer preferences. And finally, up today, two big recall stories to watch this week, starting with Toyota, which is recalling just over 1 million vehicles across the Toyota, Lexus, and Subaru brands. That recalls for rear camera failures. The issue affects 39 different models with the panoramic view monitor system. If a driver shifts into reverse within a few seconds of startup, the camera image can freeze or go completely blank. Dealers will fix it with a simple software update starting mid-December. Meanwhile, Honda's recalling about 406,000 Civic models from 2016 through 2021 tied to aftermarket 18-inch alloy wheels sold through dealers. Some of those wheels were shipped from a supplier in Italy, missing critical steel inserts that keep the lug nuts tight. Without them, the wheels can loosen or even detach while driving. Honda will inspect and replace affected wheels and hubs at no cost, of course, with owner letters going out December 8th. To find out more about these recalls, head over to the CDG Recall Tracker powered by BusyCar at cdgrecalls.com to stay abreast on all recall activity within automotive. And that's a wrap on today's industry news. Yuli, welcome back.
Happy to be here.
Do you want Apple CarPlay to start the car?
Hell yeah. I would love to have Apple CarPlay start the car.
I kind of do too. The only part I object to about Apple CarPlay is I do not like when it's plugged into the car. I can't see my map on the phone. I still want to see the map on the phone. As soon as it gives that up, and maybe it's a setting, maybe I need to chat GPT and learn it, I want to be able to see it. But I do get the play for data. Data is ground zero for everything right now. It's one of the most valuable, monetizable aspects of our industry.
The problem
today.
all these OEMs have is just Apple has perfected the user interface. So
Brian
it's obvious
Benstock,
that consumers want that.
Yeah, Brian Benstock said it best several months ago. He's like, hey, look, Apple knows what they're doing. They've done it best. Let them do it. But somebody's got to have a truce over the data piece. So, and Yuli and our entire audience, for those joining the live stream, of course, we're live across all CDG social media platforms. Post your comments. We'll bring them into today's show. We're already active online. Lauren Klein says OEMs should listen to their customers. Yoga Car says Honda recall is a true recall. Toyota is a software upgrade. Fair. When the wheels could potentially fall off, that's a problem. When the glitch in reverse can be served by the software update, that is also a problem. And then Scott Campagnella says compliance is key. So thanks for bringing the comments. Also, let us know where you're watching today. And if you have any shout outs to vets there in advance of Tuesday's Veterans Day, make that as well. And Yuli, today it's Marketing Monday, for heaven's sakes. We have Brian Kramer in the house today. It's going to be an exciting conversation with him. We had a little convo in the green room that was fun, began heating up even pre-show. Plus, we've got two dealer guests with their perspectives on all things marketing, digital leads, advertising, going after that sometimes elusive, perfect digital lead customer. Also, coming up this Friday to tease ahead later this week, we've got Brian Benstock back on the show, joining for a special announcement. It's an industry first, and he teased it last week, 900 service drive vehicle sales. Brian Benstock and a few other industry partners will be on to announce that. And Yuli, finally up before we launch into our first guest, CDG Circles. It is growing fast. It's the dealer chats that are a modern dealer peer group. The CDG Circles are open for enrollment right now. Signups, though, close at the end of November. So whoever doesn't register won't be placed in a group until at least April 2026. That's a lot of wasted time, Yuli, when it's all about execution. Yeah. And then PSI Max says rear cameras seem to be the new Takata, referring to the big airbag recall of way back when, coming from Woodinville, Washington. Yep. And Colin says Marketing Monday. But you are right. Not as dangerous, but still a concern. Well, let's launch into our show today. Let's turn first up.
Let's go.
CMO of Ourisman Automotive Group, Jeff Ramsey. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Hey, Jeff.
Hey, thanks for having me. How we doing?
Jeff, you're back. You've been on before. Yeah?
Yes, sir.
We're excited to have you back. Let's actually start with our signature question, which is how's biz?
Business for Ourisman, for Robert Ourisman stores is great. We just had, through October, we had our best October ever. We had stores celebrate. Our Honda store in Laurel had their best month ever in the history of the store. We've had, we've looked at market share. We're always reaching for the top. And so when we have a Chevy store in Rockville and a Chevy store in Baltimore outsell, a different, competitor in Tyson's Corner, these are all big wins for us. So for us, we're here at Ourisman, we're happy.
So, Jeff, let's pressure test that because it's easy to come on the show and say, hey, we've had the best ever. Is the best ever relative to everybody else, or is it a personal best? And what is it? Units? Is it net profit? Is it advertising spend? What is your definition of best ever on this November 10th of 2025?
Best ever is going to be sales volume for us. So we're tracking each store where they're at in market share every single month. And last month, we're comparing to their targets and where they were previously. And on that report, there's a lot of green. So for us, it's not just a fake best ever where everyone's trying to find something to be excited about.
Yeah.
This is genuine best ever. This is an exciting place to be.
Awesome.
All right. So give us a couple takeaways for the dealer audience listening today in your role as CMO for Ourisman, what's one or two things that have helped you have that best ever in November, when arguably there are some groups out there that are struggling a little bit, particularly in the digital lead area?
Best ever for October. I mean, for us, that's married to some of our lowest cost per sale. So we're fine tuning all of our spend. Each dealership's individual. So when you're putting targets out there for cost per sale, dealer density in that location makes a difference. General location, the OEM. So right now we're down $108 for the year on cost per sale versus 2024. And we're doing that through, our stores do a great job communicating, what inventory is coming in. The used car inventory that we have here is our vehicles that people want. The future I hate to use the term like recession proof, because I don't think, we're hitting a recession at all, but used cars, focus on used cars, and you'll always be profitable. And that's what we've done. It's where this year we're up almost 50% just in used car volume versus 2024.
So that's a substantial decrease in cost per sale. And you actually shared with us in the green room that you've generated a $2.8 million advertising savings by focusing on that cost per sale. What's the number one area that has helped contributed to that advertising savings? And yet it's interesting. Some people say, hey, you can't save your way into sales. You've proved that wrong, right? By being more intentional on where you're putting your advertising money, you're able to actually lower that cost per sale. What's one area you're putting those dollars into that's more efficient, more effective?
I think it's efficiency. We're finding the dollars where, what we're spending money on. It's not just focusing on, well, this gives us the most leads. We're looking at what influences the most sale. Influence of sale metrics are definitely different than just lead conversion. So for us, it's not signing up for anything that's wasteful. It's understanding all the products we have. And for some stores, we're putting more money into it, but the expectation is they sell more, and there's monthly accountability that goes with that. So really, it's understanding every store for where they are, for the cars they have coming. Inventory plays one of the biggest roles in all of this. If you're not fine tuning the cars that you have coming, understanding them, and even looking forward to the sales events and adjusting your spend there, you're in some trouble. So we try to look at all those details and make educated decisions to where we can lower our spend.
So you're coordinating with the used car director within the auto group on what acquisitions, what vehicles you're purchasing. You're making decisions, then you're advertising backward into that.
New cars is where we're focusing on more on what's coming in, because that's, we're well past COVID times, and there's some brands here where the OEM puts out the allocations and you just take everything. And then there's some where you're really looking at what you're taking in, what the pipeline is, and adjusting from there.
All right. So digital leads are important in today's world, right? And there are some groups that would say, hey, today we're increasing our lead count, but actually the efficiency of those leads is decreasing. What are the top 3 digital lead sources for you today as you had this record month in October?
So our Car Gurus has been the most reactionary to in a positive way. It's like, if you do the right things, you see that lead count and those call counts increase. The website, our own websites continue to go up. And then, in third place, it comes down to another third party. I'd like to say it's, the service lane or something, but it's continuing. We're still improving those metrics. It's going to be between Cars.com, Auto Trader.
Okay. And you're not saying that just because we have Cars.com up next, are you? This is a legit.
No.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. I talk to anyone. I don't pull any punches. So
you gave us what you see right now as your number one, and you said if you do the right things. What are the right things to generate those leads?
The right car, the right price. Yeah, the right car, the right price. Merchandise properly. You need to look at what's going to sell in your market. And so if you're just buying vehicles where it's like, I'm in this vehicle, right? It's probably because no one wants it. If you can just
Yeah.
run out to the auction and fill your inventory the next day, you probably those cars were available for a reason.
So, Jeff, how are you making the decision about which vehicles are the right vehicle for your marketplace? What report are you going to, or what data point are you using to make that decision?
Used cars, trusting the stores. On new cars, it's a complete collaboration of what's selling in the market, what vehicles that we're able to be profitable on and turn the quickest. But on the used side, we have an acquisition team. We have with buyers for the stores, the used car managers. It's really that comes down to in-store personnel.
Yeah. So I'm going to put you on the spot here. You've got multiple different OEMs. What are the hottest OEMs that you see in terms of leaning into that record month?
Honda is on fire. Ford did great last month. Toyota did exceptionally well. I don't want to say any stores that fell behind a little bit, but Honda, Toyota, and Subaru did exceptionally well.
So it's interesting. It's notable. You're on the East Coast. You're actually in the footprint of the government shutdown, which we got some great news last night. It seems like we might be headed towards a resolution there. Yet we're still seeing lines at TSA, and it still is leading the headlines. How did you out-message the government shutdown and its economic impact on your stores to achieve your best ever month? I mean, that's impressive.
I think it's mindset, but it's also it's because as an executive team, it was the market. We're not going to listen to the shutdown, to the bad news, to everything negative. We've structured it in a way where we can succeed in any market. When you're growing on used cars, you can function in any market and do exceptionally well. So for us, it's mindset and preparing throughout the entire year of adjusting quickly. Now, leads were down last month. I mean, our lead counts were down. Our conversion rate for the group was the highest it's ever been. So we saw our stores work to earn their sales and find success in October.
So if lead count was down but conversion was up, what do you attribute that to? Is that better training in the store? Is that better quality of lead counts? You listed your top 3 sources.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of everything. I think that's people. That's it's having the right people. The used car piece was huge for it, but I think it's an absolute combination of everything. We all supported each other through that. There's not like a simple, quick fix where it's like, hey, on October 14th, we said, hey, it's a little messy. Let's shift here. This was all month. Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to ask you a couple kind of lightning round type questions here. You're in a competitive metro market. We talked about government shutdowns and just how competitive the brands are, used cars. What's one piece of marketing in this past month that moved the needle most when you're fighting for the same impressions as a 12 plus rooftop in the radius?
It's 18 rooftops here. One piece
18,
of marketing.
Sorry, I came up wrong. Sorry about that. 18,
right.
18. All right.
With 18 locations here, one piece of marketing that continued to work was people wanted to see the highest amount for their trade-in. Trying to stay competitive with CarMax and Carvana and everyone out there is, for a dealer, it's a workout every day. And so you can't have like your simple, we're going to put in this much of KBB on the site or AccuTrade. But for us, it's getting the customers the answers they need, and back then it was as much for their vehicle and 90 days no payments, things like that. And it was that held well with customers because we have so many customers looking forward to 90 days of no payments with the government uncertainty.
So strong used car valuations to that customer to compete with some of those others you talked about, and then it's no payments or low interest rate is what's winning in the market. What tool are you using to reach out to customers on the used car offers? We had Frank Knox on last week, and he talked about his tools based on his CarMax experience and or based on his 17 plus year industry experience. What tools are you using to reach out to customers on
for use or for acquisition? Bite Size does a great job for us. That product, it's a texting based product that gives you your customers see text more than anything. They're going to look at the text before they answer their phones, before they look at their emails. So we've used that to interact with our customers and create the conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good. So inventory stable, demand confidence is shaky. Which messaging converts better now? I think you've actually answered this. Payment first, trade value, limited time urgency, credit accessibility is. I think you sort of said, 0 or some time to first payment given the government shutdowns.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else you want to say there in those different categories about what's working well for you in October and into November?
No, I think it's getting customers real answers. Just saying, hey, a $299 payment, lease payment. I'm not sure if that, from a dealer standpoint, blasting out like a nationwide or tier 2 OEM message. Yeah, it's not where our focus is. It's why do business with us.
Okay. All right. So here's a question we're going to ask a couple of our guests today. If you had 10 grand today to allocate in your marketing message, in your digital lead spend, and you needed to get the highest ROI today, where would you put that 10 grand?
10 grand. It's a great question. 10,000. I still believe you can reach more people. If it's like the shot in the arm, we need to ignite things. 10,000 on social, targeted social through video with the correct message. We could hit a lot of people, but the message has to be correct. It has to be something worth talking to the dealer for, not nothing generic.
Okay, give us an example of something worth talking to the dealer for.
Well, if we need inventory, I mean, it's kind of like where Carvana was stepping up so much, and they were starting to move ahead. They were paying the most for vehicles. Yeah. So if you're going to step up with a message, it has to be a generic. It can't be a generic. We'll give you 125%. You show a couple of real examples where this is what the other dealers were offering. This is what we offered. Real examples that pull people in and say, we need your car. It needs to come from a genuine standpoint that resonates well with the customer.
Interesting. And are you injecting that through your company social platforms? Are you having salespeople, sales managers use personal media as well?
That'd be through our group platform. We don't have anyone individually in our stores with the individual following, similar to I think Doug Horner, things like that.
Yeah.
This would be from the group level.
Okay. So how are your last question up? I appreciate you being so transparent. I have two questions left. So
sure.
How are you training your teams to define value in a way that matches what today's shoppers actually care about? So you talked about, maybe your lead count is down, but your conversion's up. So you're training your teams to help better convert on those existing leads. How are you defining value in a way that matters to consumers?
Well, we have them communicate it through video. And so our current CRM is Drive-Centric. And so within Drive-Centric, it's, in my opinion, one of the best CRMs out there to send video, to communicate video. So we're judging each day, ranking, not judging. It sounds, ranking sounds more positive. How many videos each store sends. We want them to be at a certain percentage of the total opportunities they had. So the focus being on how the message is communicated. We control the tone in which it's communicated to the customer, and we'll even click through them and show areas where they can improve. And I know videos for dealers it's slowly growing, but for us, we want to look at this every single day and give them ways they can improve.
Yeah, well, that's excellent. Jeff Ramsey, CMO of Ourisman Auto Group. Last up, what concerns you next when you think about the next 3 to 6 months? What are you thinking about and working to solve so that you can continue your winning trend?
I'm always, AI's in the back of my head constantly. And I think, AI is a suitcase term, a lot fits into it. A lot of general vague things fit into it. And, I think AI for the informed car dealer it's going to be what sets them apart in the next 3 to 6 months, 1 to 2 years, probably within the next year. It's for the uninformed car dealer that gets taken advantage of. I do think there will be a lot of them. It's going to be the biggest waste to spend that they have. So right now, what I'm trying to find is the correct AI that can help. We always want to create the best experience for our customers.
So I lied to you. It's not your last question then. So in your estimation to this point, because I agree with you, it's a gold rush of AI right now. And in the gold rush of back in the 1800s, everybody came in and they just dug wherever they could. And most people got nothing. And the people who are well-informed, educated, they struck gold. What, in your estimation, is the AI that's working best today?
I think there's more AI working in the service lanes that that does well than on the sales side. You know, I truthfully, I don't have a great AI that I'm excited for yet. There's some where I've seen where it's like lightly touching on creating conversations with customers, but they want real answers. So like if a customer feels like they're talking to a bot, they start to pull back a little bit. So when they ask that question where it's like, I thought I was talking to a human, I thought I was going to get a real answer, and it says, oh, give me your information, someone real is going to call, you know, someone else is going to call you, and they pull back.
Yeah, that's not good.
It breaks it up. So you know, and that's what I'm really excited for is if a third party, a Car Gurus, an Auto Trader, Cars.com, whoever calls me and says, Jeff, we have a product that's going to schedule the appointments of your leads, and we believe in it and trust it. Like that, no, I'm here to listen. Like, tell me how it works. But until then, I'm concerned.
Don't you appreciate the companies that are exercising a little bit of discipline before they come out and say that, who want to say, hey, you know what, we want to get this right before we come to you and we say, hey, it's ready for prime time and it will do everything you want. Because you and I both get hit up every single day with those companies who are like, hey, it does everything. Well, does it really? Does it really? Yeah. Right?
No, so. And it's like the salesperson's more excited that they could like slap the AI, powered by AI thing on it. It's like, well, how does it work?
Yeah.
No idea. And so, you know, we need to have that informed discussion. But really, I'm still convinced like a lot of these products that are powered by AI, it's the same product they were selling. It's just they found out it was like this small machine learning base to it that they could adjust.
But I would say there's some really impressive stuff out there. So I think about there's some service recall stuff. We've talked about that, and we've used that, Busy Cars and some others. There's also some interesting voice AI that actually elicits that seems to get human emotion when it's having a conversation. But I think you're right. It's a gold rush to not only find the right AI, but as dealers for us to figure out which one is the best. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. Thanks for sharing your perspectives. We'll be excited to have you back to hear about more winning months, but congrats on your record-breaking month this past October.
Excellent. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
All right, Yuli, let's talk stream companies. Be first to market with Retail Ready from Stream Companies, the proprietary platform that gets custom designed compliance specials live on your site within 4 hours. Learn how at streamcompanies.com, streamcompanies.com. Of course, you can scan the QR code there off to the side. If you're watching it after the fact, you can go to the show notes and click the link there. We appreciate Stream Companies for sponsoring today's content and supporting the conversations we've had today, including that cool one right now, Yuli, with Jeff Ramsey of Ourisman and hearing how they're winning in today's market, and admittedly a challenging market. I mean, they're on the East Coast. Sure. They're hearing all the things that bleed. So thanks, Stream Companies, for supporting today's comment. And by the way, speaking of content, that conversation with Nilo's fixed ops director last week, that was a fun conversation last Friday. I loved the convo about fixed ops, about how they're focusing on days to front line for used inventory. Tully and his entire team. Tully and his entire team are absolutely on it. And speaking of content and fixed ops, there's a ton of demand for that content, ton of demand for Fixed Ops Friday. We're going to continue that tradition. And then Yuli, you and I noticed last week, CDG launched a newsletter called the Fixed Ops Pulse. If you want to subscribe, you can go to dealershipguy.com to receive the newsletter weekly. It comes out every Wednesday, so there's no good reason to miss that content. And I'm sure some of what Tully shared with us will be there, as well as a ton of other research that our incredible team is doing here at CDG. So, all right, should we dive into our next conversation? Next up today, EVP Dealer Growth and Success at Cars Commerce, Brian Kramer. Brian, welcome.
Thanks for having me back on the show.
We're excited to have you back. Hey, what are you feeling in the TSA world? You travel a ton. Are you seeing delays, Brian?
Yeah, but I'm always feeling delays. I mean, there's always it seems like there's always a flat tire, or there's something going on. Yeah. There's always something else to do. So I've gotten pretty conditioned to it. Yeah. But I will say, based on that conversation that was just going on with Jeff, we work pretty closely with the Ourisman group, and I'll back up everything that he's saying. I couldn't agree with him more, but the way that they've shifted from auction purchases to to purchasing from consumers is one of the most impressive, kind of increases I've seen. And they're, to your point, I would consider that the most competitive market. There's probably, iron sharpens iron, and the dealers in that market are as good as anywhere on earth that they're competing with. So it's not as if they have some competitive advantage. I mean, they're all great dealers.
Yeah. So when you think about it, Brian, before we ask you the how's biz question, we got to pull that thread. A record month last month, a tough month for many dealer groups. What do you attribute as the top 1, 2, 3 things working with them that led to that success?
Well, Jeff said it probably better than I can, but I would say that their focus on sourcing the right inventory, and he mentioned it, and you were pulling on the thread, but I can't emphasize it enough. It's a lot easier. I realized this when I was in retail at the end. You don't have to worry about aging if you source the right cars. You don't have to worry about repricing cars so often. If you all the different things, your advertising cost per vehicle retailed, like he just said, is not as much when you're sourcing the right cars. It all comes back, in my world, to sourcing the right inventory and sourcing as much inventory as you can, appraising as much inventory as you can. And when you do that, you can wholesale probably more than you should, because which is what Carvana and CarMax do. They wholesale half the cars they source, and they just keep the cars they know they're going to retail. They've got historical data. They know those cars drive VDPs, those cars drive activity, and it just makes everybody's life a lot easier.
Yeah. I noticed something he said, and I don't know if it was intentional or not, but he said, when we used to compete against CarMax, when we used to compete against Carvana, as if CarMax and Carvana's value or their bids out in the marketplace versus his are less competitive. When you really focus on that as an acquisition stream, do you think you outcompete those two?
Yes, and I picked up on that as well. And he also said they used to be the best price,
right?
And they used to have the most competitive price.
Yeah. What do you make of that?
I took it as their culture has already accepted the fact that they're not the best end user on every single vehicle, which is the truth. Yeah. And not everybody does that. So I used to be under that impression. Well, they're paying stupid money. I don't know how they're doing it. But now that I've got the data and we analyze it, 0 to 3-year-old vehicles with 25 to 55,000 miles, it's a dogfight, and they're going to go all in, but they're not necessarily the best end user on all those cars. And depending on where it's at in the quarter, when their earnings are coming up, same thing with CarMax, you can see, we see it with AccuTrade, where a lot of times we're $3,000 or $4,000 higher than them, but everybody just assumes, and a lot of people don't even put it in the system because they're like, well, you already got the CarMax price match. Yeah, you're better off just selling it to them and just handing over their lunch money, when I don't think that's the case. And if it's your franchise, especially, you're the best end user for it. You can certify it. You're going to turn that's going to turn it in half the time. There's so many competitive advantages. You've got captive financing in many cases on CPO that those other, even take them out of the equation, all the other big independent dealers, and there's a ton being sold. I think that a lot of times franchise dealers, if they don't have all the data, don't get as aggressive as maybe they should. And I think that as he's talking about the used car business, and there's other examples like Ourisman, Andy Mohr, which is coming on shortly, and a lot of the other ones in the DC market are experiencing record market share on their new car business because they got so strong at used cars.
Yeah. And it's interesting. There's a sale made every day, right? And we sell ourselves. Part of this used car acquisition game is a little bit of belief and mindset, right? So Carvana, CarMax, to your point, there are dealers that have really become competitive with them. They've got to watch the data continually and understand it and react to it, rather than say, "Oh, they have," to your point, they're paying stupid money, right? How do we shift? Where's the data coming from that helps support that, Brian? And then if you're a used car manager, a dealer in a used car or in a dealer group right now, how do you make sure that your mindset matches what they're actually doing and that you're as competitive every day in competing with that, Brian?
So here's the way that I look at it. Every single time that somebody sells a car to CarMax, let's say Max Offer's paying that dealer $500. Plus they're paying transport, they're picking it up, they're running it through the auction, and they're doing all these other things with it. So on average, they're making $1,700 to $2,000 more than most dealers would say that crazy number was. And that's just the math. And they're going to do that 300,000 times this year. That's how many cars are going to get sold Max Offer. So they look at bigger data sets, and a lot of the appraisal tools will the competitive sets that are calculated with it, they're all different. There's no two appraisal tools that are the same.
Yeah.
I know that, with AccuTrade, I know how we built those, and I know that it's got, from what I understand, the most dealers and website URLs that we scrape in order to get that competitive set, because it obviously costs you more the more robust that is. But if you think about it, a lot of the appraisal tools don't have CarMax, Carvana, Echo Park, things like that in their competitive sets. When you remove those, and they're only selling, low mileage, clean VHR, the right equipment, pano roof, big wheels, navigation, you take those out of the competitive set, and those two entities we're talking about are going to sell 2 million cars this year. So if you take all those out, that can make a 102% cost to market become 94% very quickly when you add all those other cars back into the set.
Yeah. So you're not in the right cost to market at that point. You don't have big enough, broad enough data set to be able to price it correctly.
Correct. And in many cases, by that limited data set, everybody says, well, it's just easier if I just sell it to them, because they're not playing
it's not accurate.
A level playing
Wait,
field.
so which data sets include Carvana, CarMax, and which don't?
AccuTrade does. VinQ does. Viato does not.
Okay. Well, mic drop then, I guess, right? So, all right, let's go here. How's biz, Brian? And what the heck is up with Carson? Who is Carson? What is Carson?
So
wait, I got to ask this question. How does Viato not include and I don't know this. So this is an honest question. So you just said something, you excluded Viato. They're a huge aggregator of used car information. How do they not include that? I'll bite.
I didn't realize this for a long time.
Okay.
Well, they count in their competitive set as anybody who's on a Cox product, which used to be, every single dealer in the country.
Right.
But now if you're not on Viato, Auto Trader, or what's the other big one that I'm missing here? Dealer Track.
Okay.
If you're not in one of those, then it's not going to show up in the competitive set. So obviously Carvana's not on those products.
Okay.
Hendrick's not on those products. Sonic's not on those products. Well, maybe they might be advertised, or dealer.com. That's the other one I'm thinking of.
Okay.
So they used to have crazy reach, but now as this industry becomes more fragmented, there's different ways to grab this data. And I think that with AI, it's going to get more interesting in terms of that. But whoever has the most accurate competitive set data, it's just like controlling the narrative with the media. You can make it look however you want it to look.
Sure.
So it was fascinating. When you made that comment, I heard a car drive by. I don't know if that was in Yuli's background or not, but it was like you could hear a dog barking, a child crying, somebody screaming in the background. So listen, in fairness, we're going to invite Cox on. Viato's got to give a reply to that, because that's a big statement to make and have go unanswered. I'd be curious. I didn't know that, right? We're a user of Viato. It's a great product. But it does sort of make sense. The bigger the data set, particularly when you're competing against those two entities, you've got to have access to that information. So, Brian, we'll bring them on and get their response on that if it makes sense. But all right, let's go to the house
will
biz.
by the time that next podcast happens.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe it will. So, all right, let's go to the house biz, and then who the heck is Carson? House biz. Brian.
So when I'm talking to people about the business, they either sound just like Jeff from Ourisman did, or the polar opposite.
Yeah.
And I think it's really just a tale of two cities. And the ones that are still 60, 70% heavy at the auction are struggling. They're fighting with it. But and it's not necessarily because they're not as good operationally. They're just, I guess you are if you're not sourcing enough consumer cars. But if you don't have the right inventory, you're not driving enough VDPs. And you've got to have those VDP vehicles to switch to the other cars that are less desirable. Because obviously, 20% of your inventory on average is going to drive 80% of your VDPs, like the Pareto principle. So if you're not sourcing that, or if you're able to source 60, 70% highly desirable cars, it makes everything going, running downhill a lot easier. You don't have to spend as much money on marketing. You don't have to get as strategic. Spending hours analyzing everything because you've got momentum. It's like the difference between being a Toyota dealer versus a Nissan dealer right now. It's not that one is that much better than the other, but there's one that's, got a lot more momentum, and it's not as challenging as the other is.
Yep. Okay. Carson. What's Carson?
So Carson is our new AI platform. Named
By the way, But by the way, when we were hearing Jeff talk earlier, I was like, oh boy, I knew you were going to share this about Carson. And we just talked about how it's great when companies exercise discipline before they come to market with an AI tool. And I knew you were going to bring this up. This is Cars.com's AI tool, right? And is it ready for prime time? Are you ready to say, hey, this works and achieves and accomplishes everything that dealers are looking for with this tool?
Yes, I'm glad you set it up like that, because I've been chomping at the bit. I'm an early adopter, and I have been, in all these meetings, all these calls. What's taking so long? Why, everybody wants this. Let's accelerate this. And we've got some brilliant people that work for us. Some former Amazon and a lot of really high tech pedigree that have been making sure that it's right. And I was saying, I think you're trying to make sure that it's almost too right, but it's just right. And it's like Goldilocks effect now. And so we're also going to give the consumers the choice. So we're not going to shove it down their throat and say, hey, like EVs, right? You've got to, you're just going to search everything with AI now. So we're giving them the choice, and 15% of them are choosing so far to do contextual search, where they can do long tail keyword searches. And part of the issue that as we were building this is, how do you measure it? How do you demonstrate and quantify the value to the dealers?
Yeah.
Right. Because
yes.
you got to have the
How
score, the KPIs, and you run it through Google Analytics 4, but there's a few different, that's probably another show, but you've got AI overviews now. You've got generative search, Chat GPT. It's like 30-40% of the searches. AI overviews are like 70% of the Google searches. So they only show one answer. So how do you show up in those answers?
Yeah. And
I'll tell you, it's a combination of, and this Carson is not just one dimensional. It connects to our dealer rater, user generated contents. We've got 23 years of reviews, 15 million automotive reviews. So now Reddit, dealer rater are becoming a lot stronger as it relates to search. But the other thing that is high, I think it's gonna be one of the most talked about things. It's just not widely talked about now. Is your website built in schema? Is it talking to the bots? They say by this time next year, 60% of all web traffic, it's 30% now, will be bots. So are you providing an effortless experience for these AI agents and these bots to find your information, your inventory, your Google business profile, your merchandising text? We've got AI generation on that on AccuTrade to build SEO enhancement. Now we've got to build schema enhancement.
So you talk about Google Analytics and Google search. Isn't ChatGPT search equally, if not more important, as we think about the future? And how does what you're doing impact ChatGPT and other AI search?
So Cars.com and dealer inspired websites were automotive schema with Google was actually born at Dealer Inspire in Naperville. Is where they came up with it back when Joe Chur was in the early days of Dealer Inspire. So it's already been architected like that, but now it's a matter of how do we take that across the entire platform into everything we do to make it more appealing. And what we've seen is on these early search results, because you never know what's going to happen. Yeah. But the lead count is up, I think 70%. The conversion's up 30%. I mean, the performance on these and the 15% of the clients that are choosing to do it this way, it's the submission rate, the conversion rate, every single metric that we see is amplified much further beyond our expectations.
When you say clients doing it this way, you're talking about using Carson, right?
Using Carson. So Carson's on the Cars.com site.
Right. So what's the user experience like using Carson?
It's very much like Gemini or Chat GPT. So they can, instead of using filters, it's a great question.
Like the drop down, I want a 2022 or whatever.
You just type in, I'm looking for 2022 to 2024 Toyota RAV4s, between 15,000 and 35,000 miles. You don't have to put, what package is an XLE, right. XLE Premium. You don't need to know that. I want Apple CarPlay, I want navigation, I want heated seats, and I want a power liftgate. Today, or in yesterday's world, that's hard, with the way the build sheet data is and to do the VIN decoding. But with Carson, it's not hard because it can just query and search and do things in an exponential way that wasn't possible, months ago.
So a couple questions, transitioning back a little bit from that. In the prior discussion, we talked about digital lead conversion, right? So digital leads are up, and this is a question we get a lot online. We're getting a few versions of it right now. Digital leads are up. You mentioned bots and things like that. Digital leads are up, but conversion for many dealers are down right now. What are some concrete takeaways from today, from this conversation, November 2025, the dealers could implement to increase that conversion rate and get a record month like we just heard about that everybody's trying to get, Brian?
I would say the number one thing is to what Jeff just said, give somebody a number. They want their question answered. And if you don't answer their question specifically on the trade, they're going to go somewhere else. And that's where we see a huge drop off, is if you're not answering that question. And I don't know when it's happened in like the last year, where the trade-in has become the first point of entry. They're looking at CTV, then they percolate down to marketplaces, then they're going to the dealer's website, and then they're going through that experience. You've got the client at the bottom of the funnel. There's two things that are the highest intent: credit app, trade appraisal. And if you let them bounce and you don't answer their question, they're going to one of your competitors who's going to do it. Sounds like like what Ourisman's doing. And then what did he say and I agree with everything he said in strategy. He goes, and then I would take those and I would remarket them, which is exactly what I would do on like our car social product. And I would hit it at a high frequency with video, with a meaningful message is what he said. And then that's totally on point. That has a click through that goes to a landing where they can actually get that information. They're going to get it. They're not going to get the equivalent of what he said with AI. Hey, when can you come in?
When can you come so we can appraise your car?
Right. Yeah. After they go through all.
Yeah. And so that disconnect might be the biggest friction point in digital lead acquisition and conversion in automotive today.
Well, think about this. There's like 20, we have been setting records recently with 28 to 30 million unique visitors a month on our site. And, this AI thing is going to catapult us past that. But if you take a look at Carvana, I think they're at 22 million unique visitors. We're at 28 to 30. So that's how many people are bouncing from somebody. I mean, they go there for one thing, right? And then CarMax, I think, is like 16 or 18 million. So if they're only going there to get their trade value, that's how many people are trying to figure out what their trade's worth.
Yeah. Yeah. And why do you think so many dealers are afraid to allow that process to complete or bring the customer in online? Why are so many dealers getting that wrong, Brian?
So I asked that in every 20 group, and I get 3 answers. One of them is, I want to see if I could, I don't want to leave any money on the table, and see if there's any profit. One, the customers aren't going to tell us the truth, and they're not going to tell us every scratch, dent, ding, whatever. But they also don't tell those competitors that. And like Frank Knox said, they're confident that once the customer comes in, they're going to get an active appraisal with the client present. And the dealers that aren't doing that aren't as confident putting a number on the car, because they're not as confident on the intake being inspected correctly 100% of the time, 100% of the customers, like their F&I departments operate. And then the third one is they're not quite sure on what the value is, right? And there's a lot of cars that are outliers, current model year vehicles, things that are out of their comfort zone, or they just are unwilling to change. But those two, CarMax, Carvana are going to source 2 million cars this year from consumers. There's only 15 million floating around that are going to go into franchise dealers. So that's like 13 to 15%. They're only going to sell 3% of the cars. Yeah. So with that inverse, they're definitely sourcing their unfair share. And there's nothing. Ourisman is a perfect example, and Andy Mohr as well. They're doing exactly that and getting their unfair share.
So it's interesting, and this is one of the reasons why Frank was like, hey, you need to talk to Brian, because I think you have an interesting opinion on this. With all these different groups, including Carvana, CarMax, going out and getting super aggressive on the private acquisition, on putting dollar trade appraisals out in the marketplace, do you and then there's a process to help the customer back down once we talk to them, I suppose. Do you think that private marketplace acquisition is becoming overinflated as a result? Because you're getting that CarMax, Carvana, and then a bunch of private offers from groups. Like, is it overinflated, or could it become just by the competition?
Well, I would say that the auction is kind of shifting to this, right? And this is like a more of a real-time proxy of what people are willing to pay. See, we've had a kind of information asymmetry, where everybody didn't have the same amount of information, kind of like when I was in the 90s when consumers didn't know what an invoice was, right?
Yeah. Before TrueCar or whatever. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Or Edmunds or any of that stuff. And
yep.
But it's fascinating to me as I look around on this, and just to iterate again what Jeff said. Jeff was saying, well, they're not the best on every single vehicle. And George O'Connor is brilliant, who is the used car director for that group. But as I'm talking to him, there's a lot of vehicles where they're much lower. Now, what vehicles are they going to be lower on? They're going to be lower on cars with bad Carfax, wrong color, wrong equipment, multiple VHR issues. They, like a GLC Mercedes that is 2-wheel drive, no panel roof, no heated seats, and the small screen. The ones that they put into loaner car service. Those are the ones, and the difference in the MSRP doesn't justify it when it's coming back out. A Lexus RX with no nav, no equipment, versus one that's got all the Levinson and stuff that's pearl white versus sand beige. They're two totally different cars that have different turn rates. Carvana and CarMax don't pay average money for those non-average cars or cars that are above average miles. So the one thing I would challenge every dealer, when you get all these CarMax price matches, or they saw this on Carvana, ask yourself, how many times have you seen a 1 or 2 year old or 3 year old car with 70,000 miles that was like rental car equipment level, that was an ideal color, where you had to match the price? And you won't be able to find one, because they don't. They're much lower than most dealers are on those cars. So they pay up on certain cars and not the others.
Yeah, based on data, which they've got the great data. Yeah. Fascinating.
And where did they get it, Sam?
I'm not going to say, because we got to let them respond. Well,
no. I'm saying they got it from the dealers, letting them bounce off their websites to get it on their car. They have first party data.
Yeah. They're getting it from the source, wherever that source is. So, all right. Very cool. EVP Dealer Growth and Success at Cars Commerce. Thanks for the fascinating conversation. Brian Kramer, thanks for joining the show today.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks.
That was fun. You can't listen. I didn't know that, right? I didn't know. I didn't know where you could. Yeah, I didn't know. So it's cool. It's a fun conversation we're having today. So yeah, giddy up. All right, let's go. Let's turn now to CMO Andy Mohr Auto Group. Dustin Clark, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Dustin, are we having fun yet?
Oh, we're having lots of fun.
I'm expecting you to tell us you had a record month last month, so and you'll give us the key on it. So how's biz, Dustin?
I don't know if I'll give you the key, but biz is good. Biz is good. And from my viewpoint, looking at leads, kind of tracking them across the 12 rooftops, making sure that we're optimizing and constantly staying active and staying after it. November's good so far. I'm pleased with the results so far, so that's good.
Awesome. All right, so talk to us about, we asked everybody, we asked the prior guests, including Brian, digital leads. They're up, conversion is low or down for a lot of groups. What is your best digital lead source? If you had 10 grand to invest today, additionally, what are your top 3 digital lead sources today?
I mean, that's what I spend the vast majority of my time always trying to figure out. And between Google, between Facebook and our social channels, testing a few things here and there. I have a secret spreadsheet that I call Third Party Fight Club that I'm always using.
Can you share your screen with us?
No, I will not share that with you. But looking at, how are those results comparing? And that's the $1 million question. I mean, I used to joke when I was in agency world, when I got the really hard question of like, if I could figure that out, I probably wouldn't be working in the agency world. But figuring out that idea of where is our best dollar spent, it's a nuanced puzzle, because we've got different brands, we've got different rooftop sizes. So if I had to make a gut check, I'm probably going with my old standards and saying, I think we can do this across digital channels that drive towards our websites. So our Google and our Facebook spend. But it's not always the case. Sometimes it's a little bit nuanced when we're talking about things from dealership to dealership.
Yeah. Is there an OEM where your dollar spent is better returned digitally back to either your website or one of the traditional lead providers? Who's your top 2? Who's your bottom 2?
I mean, I don't want to say the bottom two, but I mean, the top two are the ones that we're always talking about, right? We always know Toyota and Honda do really well in this market, as well as our, traditional OEMs that are here in the States. So your Fords and your Chevys like to see, those lead numbers are always a little bit more fun to look at when you can see the brand affinity that happens in the Midwest for those American brands. As well as the idea of just the brand loyalty and the product quality that you see of like a Toyota or Honda.
Very good. Very good. What technologies? We've heard a lot about AI and technologies on today's show. What tools or technologies have most improved the accuracy or speed of not only reporting, but just lead generation? Is there anything you're excited about or you're interested in?
Yeah. The AI conversation that's been going on is one that really interests me quite a bit, not just from the, external marketing or like the customer facing marketing side of things, but also like where can AI help us in the back end of the house? And not just from a marketing standpoint, but obviously service and BDC and lots of different elements there. So that's an area that I spend a lot of time thinking through as well. Kind of wrestling.
What's your answer?
What's my answer? Oh, man. Right now, I think I kind of agree with what Jeff said a little bit, that I'm still a little tentative on the customer facing. Yeah, it's a gold rush. I'm a little tentative, but I'm testing, right? And as a data-driven marketer, I know Brian mentioned Google Analytics. Like Google Analytics is probably the first thing I open every single day. So I'm constantly looking at what's going on with our channels, with our tech platforms, and testing, optimizing. When you have the advantage of, working at a great group with a bunch of great GMs that are successful, then it's not about like, hey, we got to save the day. It's we got to make this work even better than it already is.
So tell us, you have purview over a large group, right? You have multiple rooftops, 12 plus rooftops, right? And you're in charge of, or you have kind of that, I mean, you're the chief marketing officer. You have that charge. What does your day look like? Like for those auto groups that don't have a head of marketing, you've got general managers. I assume those general managers are in charge of stores and they're making a lot of decisions as far as ad spend. OEMs are different, right? How do you herd all that? I want to say herd the cats, but I'm not going to say that. But how do you bring everybody together? What does your day look like, and how do you get alignment on how you'll spend those resources?
There's not enough time in the day, but a lot of it is just through collaborative communication. And the way that I always try to approach every day is that, hey, my job's to be the marketing expert, and the team knows at this point that I'm a really data-driven marketer. I really like getting into the numbers, but I've also been around long enough to know that their gut feel as the car guys, as the relationship-driven people on the front end.
You'll defer sometimes.
It's not just science, and it's not just the feel. It's a marry of those two things. It's a marriage of those two things. So
what do you say to a general manager? What's the most important data point, or what's the most important metric as a data-driven marketer working with GMs? What do you go to fastest?
It depends on how they feel, right? If they're like, man, I don't know if we got enough ups this month so far, then I start digging into, okay, well, how does this look month over month? How does it look year over year? How are we comparing it to like-minded stores, ones in the same area? If they're like, hey, I feel like we've got lots of opportunities, but maybe we're not closing as much as we want, then it's starting to dig into, okay, what do our conversion rates look like? What are our processes look like? Do we have a miss there? How are things feeling? The things that are within my control, there's a lot that they're doing so well across all the stores. The idea of the right vehicles and the right price, I'm trying to help them solve. Are we getting the right leads? Are we at the right channels? Are we talking to customers with the right message? Are we reaching them at the right time? And kind of marketing all across the funnel, as it were, so that we're not just gobbling up demand at the end, but if we're gobbling up the bottom of the funnel, are we filling in the opportunities further up, so that 15 days from now and 30 days from now, there's also a lead ready to come in and buy a car.
So you are, Dustin, part of CDG Circles. We've talked about that. The application process ends the end of this month.
Yeah.
Tell us about your experience with that group, and what are some of the things you've gleaned from that, if anything?
Well, I just signed up. So
Okay.
I actually haven't been in a group yet, but I will tell you the reason why I signed up was because of the groupthink that happens at that level, right? That the conversations around, hey, how is business? What are we doing? How are we reacting to market pressures, to news? The idea of the chip shortage that came up lately, that started email threads and text threads with my agency partners internally with our GMs. But I'm just one person. We've got a great marketing team here, but I love the idea of getting multiple perspectives. Again, that's kind of back to the data guy, right? But my numbers will tell me one thing, but hearing those different stories is where ideas on how to tweak the system and make it even more optimized come from.
So how is the chip shortage and whatnot impacting buy sell and ad spend at your?
Well, it's funny because it happens. The news happens so fast these days. As you think about, like, it came out, it's like, what are we going to do about it? And then a couple days later, it's like, well, this might actually get fixed. But I also think about that. I try to always wear my consumer hat as well and think, okay, if they're hearing this news, what is going on and how can we capitalize that? If they're starting to hear that production might be impacted, do we have the right type of used inventory? Do we have the right type of marketing in place that's saying, hey, don't worry about these pressures. We've got a way to get you into the type of vehicle that you want. I think that's an important consideration as well.
Yeah. And where would you see, that is a fascinating question, in something like the chip shortage as a marketer, where do you see that opportunity?
Yeah, I think to me, it's like, as the news comes out daily, did our daily lead volume get impacted? Like, what's the sales cycle look like? Does it lengthen because of that news? Those are the type of signals that I'm kind of looking at to say, like, are we having the type of steady performance that we are used to seeing, or is there some type of disruption there?
Yeah. Which OEM excites you most about their ad campaign and aligning with them, and partnering with them in ad spend? Which one do you think is most trending right now in automotive? So you have Chevy, Ford, Buick, GMC, Honda, Toyota, Hyundai, Kia, Volkswagen, Nissan. You've got many different brands.
Yeah, I don't want to make any of them mad, but I love the approach that Toyota's taken to the NFL this year, right? Like that extra branding. Hey, America's a sports country and Indiana is a sports town. I've been telling lots of people it's fun to be an Indiana sports fan right now with the
Colts. Basketball though. Oh, that's fair. Yeah.
Well, Colts, but the Indiana Hoosiers are like football. Yeah. It's like, this is a once in a lifetime thing. So getting to enjoy that as a fellow Hoosier grad and fan has been great. I think our basketball is going to be okay too. The Pacers are a little rough, but I'm hoping IU's going to be good. But I love seeing that, like, national marketplace advertising from Toyota around the NFL. That's been nice for sure.
Yeah. Well, Dustin Clark, CMO, Andy Mohr Auto Group, it's been a pleasure having you on the show, sharing your perspectives in all things digital lead generation, marketing, and just what it means to kind of bring a group together and making ad spend decisions. So thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.
Thanks.
Appreciate you being here. I'm fascinated by that role of CMO. So in our group, there's not necessarily one person. All the GMs have responsibility and purview, and getting everyone aligned on that type of a decision, that's a big task. That's no small task.
Huge. Really. Yeah, huge. But you can probably quantify that savings, like we talked about at the beginning of the show. If you can kind of compare and cross-reference all of the data there, there's a lot to learn.
$2 million. $2 million. So.
2.8.
Yeah, 2.8, almost 3 million. Maybe by the end of the year, he'll surpass 3 million bucks. So,
yeah.
All right. So everybody, all of our loyal Daily Dealer Live audience, we appreciate you joining the show today. A couple of really good comments just as we wrap up here. Yoga Cars comes in and says, regarding data sets, how do you fix inflated prices by dealers that add on products and clauses on used cars? So we might bring that into the conversation next time. Yoga Car says, don't disregard Google just yet. Apple just signed a deal with Google for custom 1.2T parameter Gemini AI model for Series Spring 2026. It's $1 billion a year. So that's interesting. We'll follow that as an evolution. Lauren Klein, sooner or later, there will be an AI that will do all the legwork for your shopper and tell them exactly where to go, what to pay. We'll be getting AI leads from AI personal shoppers. I actually look forward to that moment, right? So then the question is, how in automotive do we capitalize on it? Yep. Yoga Cars, the market will correct itself. And then, of course, Yoga Car says the most important metric in all of automotive is the sale, obviously. So, and then just as a reminder, on Friday's show, we've got a big show coming up. Brian Benstock with a big announcement. Love to have you back for that. To our Daily Dealer Live audience, thanks for watching Daily Dealer Live, where we break down the biggest moves in the auto car business as they happen. Don't forget, as always, we're here every Monday. We'll be back Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern, and Friday. So if this is your world, hit like, hit subscribe, turn on those notifications so you never, ever, ever miss a beat. We'll see you next episode, everybody. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, guys.